today, this lovely Friday. Sales is everything. Nothing starts until a sale's made.
To the HPLS podcast. Live, relevant, and high performance information, conversations, and education weekly.
What? Here we go, everybody. Hey, welcome to another episode of Sales Chatter. DJ and I have a very special guest today, Nigel Baldwin. So we are doing a little pond hopping today, as they say it. We've got Nigel from the UK, DJ from the US, Dan from Canada. We got three of the greatest continents on the planet. Well, there's a lot of other great continents, but I don't want to get trashed here from everybody. But you know what I'm saying. We're all over it today, my friends. Exactly. And today it's going to be a absolutely outstanding conversation today because we are talking about sales is everything. And I can tell you just probably the last 20 minutes that the three of us were backstage talking before we hit live, I kind of wish I would have recorded it because that was some seriously powerful stuff, guys. So let's get this mofo off the ground. Nigel, right? So Nigel, let's kick it off because I think it's super important. What's the first question you ask when you go into a meeting?
I've always been the same. As I said, backstage, as we discussed, the majority of sales training that I've attended over the years, I totally ignore. So I've kind of I've built my own process and built my own company on what makes me happy. I play. If you're playing, there's a great book. I think it's called Power to Perform, Prime to Perform. So it's a great book. I'll let you know the details later. But they always say play, purpose, potential. Play, purpose, potential. They're the intrinsic motivators. And I've been very lucky in my life that I play at what I do because if you play, you're going to enjoy what you do. So going back to the first question, I was hopeless going into meetings. I remember I used to go into these initial sales meetings when I first got into sales back in 1988. And I don't know if it was true, but it felt like it, that I felt sweat was dripping off my nose because I was that focused on remembering all the things I had to remember that the first thing, I wasn't actually listening to anything the other person was saying to me in the meeting because all I'm listening for are those words that are buying signals where I could then jump. I've heard something and then I'm just going to push myself on this person, what we can do, what my product service is. And that was it. So I sat there until I heard these. And then when I started my own business, I started to play and thought, this is crazy. This isn't the way to sell. So since 1992, honestly, every meeting that I've ever had since, I've just asked one question. What would you like from this meeting? And I've shut up.
You know, I think we've said it a couple of times on this show. When you have people to the caliber of Oprah Winfrey, who walk into a meeting and say something very similar. Her first question in every meeting is, what is the intention of this meeting? Like, what do y'all want out of this? And, you know, when we have that direction, and I'm a huge believer on context, on clarity, on really understanding, because this is our career, you know, and I've, you know, I'll be the first to come out and say, I've been down the road where I hated this industry. Hated it. I mean, to the point where I would lie in bed in the morning and I've never been an alarm person, but the alarm would actually go off and I'd lie in bed and I'd think of a way to fire myself, which is kind of crazy because I owned the company, but I would think of a way. There was one point and I remember it vividly, waking up in the morning, wishing somebody would just fire me. And you can't when it's your company, but that led to the dissolving of my company, and it led to a whole bunch of other things, which then led to this industry sucking me back in and bringing me back, which I'm super happy for because I love it again. But I the way I look at it, Nigel, is if it's this grind, right? Like if we
Get
wake
out
up
of
and
it.
it's this
If
constant
it's
grind,
grinding, get out of it.
yeah, like the constant wait, I guess, maybe better word than grind, because some people use the word grind to say, okay, Kim, and I'm going to grind out the day where I'm going to like really be productive and all that. So, but that constant wait, right? That constant feeling of, two steps forward, 15 steps back. Like it just gets overwhelming. And like we were talking about backstage, the reality is when we're creative, when we have that ability to solve challenges, problems, like human 101, creativity is king, right? Like when we are able to release our creativity into the world, like these are where all great inventions come from. These are where like everything comes from that creative side of us. And not to mention, I think that creative side drives us to the next level, the next level, the next level, because it's so creative. Like towards the end of my corporate side, I would come in every day saying, how can I give myself a raise? And that one question got me to creatively think about what was going on. Randy Gage, I don't know if the two of you or anyone listening know Randy Gage, but he's a prosperity coach. Awesome guy. Awesome guy. His motto is move fast and break shit. And he said one thing. He goes, Dan, I interviewed him a couple of years ago. He says, Dan, here's the thing. There are very few people, like 1%, that creatively think, like really think creatively. We all think we think, but we don't really think. We just kind of walk in the morning and go, okay, here's what has to happen today. And you just kind of do it, right? Instead of creatively think, like, how can I approach this from a different angle? And it's really where my whole theory of sales audibles came from. But I digress on that. So what do you find happens, Nigel, when you walk into a meeting and you say, hey, what is it you want from today? What is it you want from the meeting? What is kind of the big aha for somebody listening?
They basically, as I say, you shut up and listen, and you use your experience to ask questions, not the open questions that you're scripted to use by most sales trainers out there, because everybody's asking the same questions. So I used to take great pride in somebody sitting opposite me saying, do you know, Nigel, nobody's ever asked me that before. Now, the two things is I took pride in it because, one, it's interesting and you're learning what they're really looking for and hope to achieve. And that's my job, is to get them to where they want to go. But secondly, is they remembered me. Yeah. And part of the battle in sales is to be remembered, to be kind of different, because they're seeing sales reps all the time. Yeah. They all turn up, ask exactly the same questions, don't really understand what they're getting from the answers, and go away and put something together. So, be remembered, be different, be the guy who said, well, actually, why did you ask me that? Well, I asked you this because this, and this. Oh, I've never viewed it like that. And then you start getting the prospect, all this rubbish about controlling the meeting. What a load of rubbish. You're having a conversation. Yeah. And in the end, if you're listening and asking really good questions, people will start thinking and hang on a minute, we're curious as to why you're asking this. You've created curiosity. So you're not pushing stuff at them. Suddenly they're coming towards you. You're pulling them towards you. Hang on a minute.
You go for it.
Why are you asking that? I'm curious to find out, how did you help that person in that situation? And then you're in that kind of conversation of you're helping somebody, as I always say, visualize and then achieve what they didn't think was possible before they connected with you. You're having a totally different meeting. And that's how I've built, when I started my company, I looked at it. I looked at what was wrong, I thought, in the logistics industry and what was wrong in the recruitment industry. And like you, Dan, I hated working in them. The 5.5 years I spent working with 2 employers to learn my trade, I hated, because to me, the ethics, the values and everything were all wrong. Yeah. We were supplying drivers to industry. And I was told, we worked in a first floor office, my first company, and I was told every pair of legs coming up the stairs is worth money to you. And I'm thinking, really? Yeah, really? These are people.
If you want a transactional business, sure.
These are people. Yeah. I don't want to work with people who I don't think are good enough to represent the company for a start. But I don't want to look at everybody like it, as you say, like it's a transaction.
Yeah.
So, I started looking at, I built my business basically on, I don't know if you guys do, I scribble all the time. And I was scribbling, and suddenly I put a triangle together, and I'm thinking, the driver is really important in this scenario. So's the customer, and so are we. So it's a triangle. Yeah. If either side falls in a triangle, you haven't got anything. Yeah. So every piece was important. And then it was my job as creator of the company to find out, how do I make each point really powerful, really mean something, the play, the purpose, and potential. So you had drivers who bought into the purpose, who bought into wanting to go where you wanted the company to go. Yeah. You had customers who bought into the concept that, hang on a minute, staffing is a fixed cost. Nigel's making it variable. Yeah. And then obviously there was our part of it. But I've followed, I don't know if you've heard this before, Steve Jobs, everybody used to say, did you focus on creating money?
Mm-hmm.
And his focus was never to create money. It was to create a product that everybody desired. The money was the result of that.
And the nucleus of that product was a better user experience.
Indeed. So that, in effect, this was before, the book I mentioned and before Steve Jobs and everything. But when I created the company in 92, it was right. If I get this right, where I thought the recruitment and logistics industry had gone wrong, and I'm successful, I will make money. But I didn't go out to try and make money by selling something.
Nigel, can we debunk what I believe a lot of salespeople are probably thinking at this point?
Yeah.
Because
be polite, Dan. Be polite.
No. Well, I mean, yeah, but it's because I've had this question before.
Yeah.
When I've suggested, okay, go in and find out what the intention, ask what the intention of the meeting is, right? I've had so many sales reps come back and go, but Dan, I asked for the meeting. Should I not be the one that says what the intention is? And I said, well, no, because if the company says, yes, let's get a meeting, you need to find out what they're looking to hear, achieve, accomplish in this meeting, even though you called it. So how do you debunk the theory in a lot of salespeople's minds that what I called the meeting, I should be the one that says what's going to accomplish?
That's a great question, Dan. This is the fun thing. Yeah,
that is a good question.
Try different things. This is the play bit. I love it. You're in a conversation, you're in a meeting. And I've been in those meetings where somebody said, hang on a minute, you've called the meeting. Yeah. And I challenge back and I say, yeah, but you accepted it.
And I was going to say that same thing, Nigel. You accepted it. What were you accepted it for a reason? What
precisely?
What were you looking for? Yeah.
DJ, you're exactly right. And the person will then say, well, I don't know why, because I'm perfectly happy with my supplier. And I'd say, well, if you're perfectly happy with your supplier, yeah, why'd you accept the meeting?
Yeah. I love it. I knew you were going to go there.
Yeah. Or, and I've done this before, guys, you say, I'm terribly sorry, and you get up to go. And then you'll get, whoa, hang on a minute. No, I like what you were saying. It's just, buyers are trained. Yeah. Sometimes salespeople don't think buyers are trained. Yeah. Buyers are trained. Just play the game. Enjoy it. Go out there and experiment what works. We know this. There is no silver bullet in what we do. I don't care what anybody says. The Wolf of Wall Street, all this nonsense. He was successful until he got caught. Yeah. There's no silver bullet.
That's right.
Nigel, if you want to look at that from a different angle. Okay. So he was successful till he got caught, but he was also successful with people that wanted the results. So, some people say, well, he was successful with greedy people. Smart investors never went with him. The greedy people, the people that were looking for something for nothing, went with it. And we can talk about this from 6 Ways to a Sunday in logistics. You're successful if you sell rates for people that care about rates, right? You're successful if you build a relationship.
Even with that, Dan, you said you're successful. He was successful, but it was not the smart people. But look, he found the customers that he needed to find in the end. The customers matched what he was selling, and it worked.
It worked. But DJ,
but to me, that isn't.
Right? How many
that isn't selling
there?
No, it's not selling.
Nigel,
he was. Yeah, absolutely.
If you look at Jeb Blunt's book, Inked, right? The first thing he says, because it's all about negotiation, the first thing he says is, so many salespeople in today. Remember, DJ, I sent you the picture of that page. So many salespeople that they have no idea how to negotiate. Somebody says, "Well, your price is too high." Okay, I'll drop my price, and that's the negotiation. But that's the big gap in our industry.
But
real sales training.
People try and negotiate way too early. You can't negotiate until either of you know exactly where you are,
exactly what the other person needs. Yeah,
and that comes way down the sales process, as far as I'm concerned. You can't start negotiating until everybody knows where they are.
Yep.
And that's where a lot of people go wrong. Anybody can give money away. Anybody can chuck money at anybody. Yeah. The best way to get over that is to become self-employed. I tell you. Yeah.
Yeah. Then you really start paying attention.
You then really start.
I'll
tell you my. I can tell you my value because otherwise, as I said to you guys earlier, and this was no joke. I remember starting day one, sitting in my car, literally crying in tears. What have I done? I've given up a job on, I think at the time I was on about 32,000 in the UK, which I think is around about 54,000 Canadian dollars. So it's not a bad wage for a guy in his 20s. Yeah. I had a company car. I had a benefits package. I chucked all that in. Yeah.
That's a really good, for somebody in their 20s, that's a really good payday.
I was good. I didn't enjoy it, but I was good. Yeah. But I didn't enjoy it. I threw everything in, but I sat in that car, this little village at Quennington in the middle of the Cotswolds in Gloucestershire in the UK, crying because I suddenly thought, I've taken a risk. I believe in what I'm doing. The process I think is good. And then suddenly, this is no word of a lie, the phone went. It was a guy called Gary O'Grady from a company called Fazenda Chicken. Always remember it. And he said, Nigel, we've met, we've talked. I'm gonna give you a go. Can you supply 3 drivers on Monday morning for me? And then you're in the game. Then you start. And the whole thing, as I say, I think I've said this before, it was like a snowball. It just got bigger and bigger and bigger. And that's what I love about selling. Because if you do it properly and you have a process that you love, you can play with, it's good fun, the customer enjoys the experience, etc. The snowball just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And I don't know of any other industry like that.
Jeff says, good morning, gentlemen. Hi, Nigel. Jeff, good morning, brother. Sorry,
morning, Jeff.
I wanted to bring you in a little earlier, brother, but we were just in the middle of the convo.
Nigel talked about a few things real quick. He said first, with leading with the question and letting them talk. Obviously, Nigel, you're doing that because we don't need to talk. The whole reason for the meeting is not for us to talk, but it's more to find out and have them do most of the talking so we can actually find out if we can help them or not.
It's all about
our goal is not to sell them something they don't need. Our goal is to find out what they do need and why they took the meeting to begin with, so we can see if we have the solution. And if we don't,
exactly, DJ. And I'm all for. And this again, maybe this comes from being self-employed for the last 28 years. Qualify out as quickly as you can. Yeah. If you can't help, or if you just get out of there, because it's a waste of time. You have to focus on the people who are doing this, who are able to buy into your concept, who understand what you want. I remember I got one of my first visits when I started my business was a company. I can say this because it's true. A company who were dealing with food for a large upmarket supermarket in the UK. So their lorries back in the 90s had, I don't know if it's called the Royal Plume. Okay. So it means that they provide to the royal households. Okay.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm.
All right.
Yeah. Gotcha.
I met with the transport manager. I thought, this is fantastic. I've only just started my business. I'm meeting these people. They've got royal plumes on their trucks. This is how good this is going to be. I was listening to him. I listened. I asked a few questions, and he looked me in the eye and he said, Nigel, he said, I don't care about any of your quality. I don't care what you're trying to achieve. All I want is if you can provide me a monkey at 3 o'clock in the morning who can take that rig off my forecourt, I'm going to use you. Yeah. So I said, well, thank you very much for your time. I've enjoyed the meeting, but that's not how I intend to work. And shook his hand and walked down.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So a couple of things. First of all, Gary, Hope, Arkansas, in the house, brother. Welcome.
Yes.
Gary says nothing happens till you sell something. And that's true. That's true, my friend. And that's what we're talking about today.
The first sale though starts up here. The first sale starts up here because that's telling you to either do it or not do it. That's
mindset.
And
DJ, it's the mindset. Spot on.
Yeah.
100%. And here's the thing is, y'all have heard the expression, sell ice to an Eskimo, right? And I think it's...
I'm so glad you went
used to say it. I used to say it all the time. I can tell ice to an Eskimo on a glacier and ask them to step aside while I cut it out from underneath them.
But they don't need it.
They don't need it.
Exactly. You're selling them something they don't need. But that's where we're driven. A lot of the things they say in the comments like that. Yeah, I'm so glad you went there. But then going back to the Steve Jobs thing, he created more than what you said. I think he created a status. I think with the Apple phone, there's a certain level it feels like that people get to in life, and they think they just need it. I think that's what drove.
I agree. He didn't go out with that intention.
No, absolutely not.
He set out to create a new opportunity. When you look at the evolution of the Mac into the iPod is a new opportunity to completely change an industry. Like when you look at the iPod, we had MP3 players out that can hold like 500 songs or 300 songs. We had the technology, but his opportunity was, I am going to give you your entire library of music in your pocket. That's the new opportunity. So people looked at that and said, oh my God, I want my new opportunity. Because I don't know about you guys, but at that time I would have those big, either like the half binders with all the CDs. And I'm like, are you kidding?
Like 800 pounds of CDs you're carrying around. I think I still have them somewhere.
When somebody wanted to sit in the front seat, it's like, hold on, you're picking it up and you almost pull your rotator cuffs to put it in the back seat so somebody can get in your car, and you're like, hold on, in something this big, I can hold like 1,500 songs. Like, I am so in. But then, if you notice, if you really pay attention to the marketing of Apple, and if you read Steve Jobs' biography, is it autobiography or biography? I don't know what wording it is, but you see the evolution of a new opportunity to status, right? And if you watch Apple's marketing, they are frigging geniuses, because they are creating this vision of the future. Like, the best one I can give is when there's a bunch of people on a boat and they're filming with the iPhone, and then a whale comes out of the water. Like, oh, and you hear very faintly in the background, oh my God, you'll never see that again. But you've captured it, right? And it's not as if, like, if you really look at it, and if you look at all the functions, like the Google Pixel, pretty much, I think it's a better camera than the iPhone. You know what I mean? But it's like, and then you see the latest iPhone where they're like, Hollywood cinema in your pocket. And anyone who's on, like, if you think about this for a second, Instagram, recording video. They're like, oh my God, I want the Hollywood cinema. When I do this, I want the blurred background so it'll look like it's a movie, like they're playing that.
And what they've done is very, very clever, but that's branding and marketing. A lot of it is branding and marketing. Going back to selling is everything. You mentioned, and I think Mark Hunter, who's
that's great, super
a Mind for Sales, his book, he says the job of salespeople is to help people visualize and then achieve what they didn't think was possible. Steve Jobs did that with a product. Yeah. Our job as salespeople, whether it's product or service, is to go out and do exactly that. All we're doing is help people visualize and then achieve what they didn't think was possible until they connected with us. Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. I got, sorry to interrupt, Dan, but it's funny that he brought up Mark Hunter, because one of the quotes I had was Mark Hunter. So I'll just throw that out there. But it's not about having the right opportunities. It's about handling the opportunities right.
Yeah. And all we're doing is suggesting possibilities and opportunities as a salesperson. You know, if people go with you, that's fantastic. If they say no, that's not
fantastic too.
Well, no's not never. Again, salespeople, these SDRs who are herded into rooms and pressurized to make 70 calls or dials or whatever a day, it's not the way forward. It is. I promise you, that isn't the way forward. The way forward is to work with people, have these conversations with people, understand what, as I said to you earlier behind the stage, understand how you create revenue, understand how your prospects create revenue, and understand how your prospects help their customers create revenue. Once you understand those things, you can have a business conversation. And that's what this is about. You've got to have the business acumen to make sense. So having sat there and said, what would you like from today? They then tell you, and you can say, well, yeah, I can do that, I can't do that. You know, if you need that, these people are probably better. You know, you're helping people. You might not get a sale from that, but I bet you'll get a referral or a recommendation or whatever with regards what you can do. It's not all win. All this bullshit about that is not selling.
No,
not in my
selling
opinion.
Is a transference of emotion, in my opinion. Like the nucleus of sales is a transfer of emotion, you know, and I remember the day when that hit me and I really started to believe it. I'm sitting with my car salesman of all people. And I said, you know, Courtney, how long have you been selling cars? He goes, I don't sell cars. And I'm sitting there in my head, I'm going, dude, I'm sitting at the dealership. Like, you sell cars. He goes, no, I don't sell cars. He goes, I sell the feeling you get when you hit the button and the car locks and it goes beep, beep, and you turn around and you look. And he goes, and Dan, here's the thing. There's a lot of people that sell 4 wheels. He goes, that feeling, if it's the person that buys looks of the vehicle, if it's the person that buys the horsepower under the 5-liter Mustang engine, if it's the person that buys the convenience of the Navigator or the prestige of a Lincoln, like, and he's Ford Lincoln salesman. He goes, like, I sell all of that, but what I sell is the emotion behind it. And when we really look at the nucleus of sales, why do we buy anything? Right? Everything we buy is, the nucleus of it is status, emotion, image, credibility, brand. It's the nucleus of every single sale, right? Like in logistics, we make a sale. It's because we brought something to the table that in the end is going to help the logistics manager achieve their goals. What does that do? That increases his or her image, credibility, and brand in the company, increases that emotional side of their career.
Yep. Right.
They can go home. They made a great decision. The boss says, hey, oh my gosh, Nigel, awesome decision on bringing in DJ as your logistics rep. You're like, dang. That now all of a sudden that emotion of, you know, getting that pat on the back, so, I mean, we get into it. Your question that you ask when you walk in stirs up emotion in somebody as they start talking about their challenges or what they want. Now you've got an emotional goal to hit with every single
because
point.
You know their story. Because you know their story. If you're interested if you're interested in their story, yeah, you'll know where they want to go with this.
Absolutely.
And that's you can pitch it where you like. For example, when I was in the recruitment logistics industry, I used to it was my business, but I used to get up at 3:00 in the morning and phone transport supervisors working in night shifts, yeah, to find out whether they had a full quota of drivers for that day. Yeah, that was one way of approaching what I was doing. The other was to contact the CEO. Now, as you say, Dan, the CEO has got a totally different picture than the transport supervisor at 3:00 in the morning. But because you had a process to work through with either of those people, you got a customer. And the number of times you could start from transport supervisor, you made his day, you got that rig off the forecourt, suddenly he's recommending you to his manager. His manager would talk to his director. His director would suddenly go to the CEO, so you could sell that way. Likewise, the CEO, oh, I like your proposals, Nigel. I like the way you're thinking. You're making staffing a variable cost, not a fixed cost. And they start to, so again, people always say, where do I start? Who do I contact? Again, have fun with it. You know, you can start here, you can start there. Yeah. They'll soon pass you down, or those people will soon recommend you up.
Yeah.
But don't just say, oh, C-suite, I can't go there. You know, we would, you know, C-suite, I can't. They want to hear from you. They want your expertise. They want to know how you're going to make their life easier, how they're going to make more money, or how they're going to save money. They're open to suggestions. Whereas
those last points you hit are incredible, Nigel, because those last points you hit are the everything.
Yes, everything. Right?
Like,
yeah, I agree.
Yeah. You
I agree. Well, here, Jeffrey Gitomer, another good quote going with Nigel. Great salespeople are relationship builders who provide value and help their customers win. It doesn't say they win. It says help their customers win.
100%. And, you know, here's the second thing, Nigel, that I'd like you to dive into. So as a sales rep, you go in, you ask, you know, what's the intention? What do you want out of this meeting? They say, I need this, this, and this. You go in, you make the sale. That's actually just the starting point. Whereas a lot of salespeople, that's kind of the end point in logistics. Okay, I made the sale. My operations team is going to take it over. And they end up doing this ebb and flow business in their career, right? Where it's like, get a bunch of clients, lose a bunch of clients, get a bunch of clients, lose a bunch of clients. And it's a vicious cycle in a lot of salespeople's careers. What do you look at once the sale is done? Do you look at timelines for execution and completion of specific goals, achievements, mandates, desires? Like, what is your process from that point moving forward? Because when the sale's done, again, just the beginning. That's the starting point.
It's the start of the performance.
Yeah, and you know, sales is a performance. You're right, DJ, and that's why you can have fun with it. Yeah. You know, I run classes on improvisation, for example. You know, don't go in with a call script. Let's practice what you say. If this person says this, what are you going to say? That's more. Yeah, I love improvisation. Anyway, we digress. What I do is sales process, constantly working on it, constantly evolving, dynamic document, always worked with it. It's circular. So to me, I hate the word close. I've always hated the word close. That brings sweat off the end of my nose again, trying to remember 14 different ways of trying to close this meeting and trying to close this deal. To me, just as the first question I ask, what would you like from today? The final question I ask, is how do we make this happen? Yeah. There's things that they've got to do. There's things that I've got to do. You map that out. You put it on timelines. You put it on a time frame. You never let or close an opportunity, because as soon as you've got a piece of work, you then assess what their return on investment is with regards to the successful implementation of that service or product. But then you're working on the next agreement. To me, it's just a progression of agreements. So it never finishes. You're then bringing in new suggestions, new perspectives, new ideas, and you're playing again. You're starting the circle again. It never finishes. Never finishes.
You know, I love, and you've sent me that document before, and I absolutely love it. I use one that I call
it's
the
out of
baseball
date now,
diamond.
Dan. It's out of date.
Oh, well, you'll have to send me a new one, Nigel. I use one called the baseball diamond theory because for me, when I got into this business, I was just turning 17 years old. By the time I was 18, I was making a lot of money, and I just couldn't believe that it was this simple and not easy. Simple. When you look at it, you go, you provide a solution, they do it, they give you money, you make money in between. At that point in time, the exchange rate was like 156 or something crazy. So the amount of money when you're dealing with US companies to Canadian was just astronomical. And, one thing I looked at is as a baseball diamond, your first base is qualify. Your second base is truly find out why they buy. Your third base is fulfill the why. If you fulfill the why, you're going to get a customer, as opposed to you can see in sales, a lot of salespeople when they have to transition to the sell, like to the actual close or to the give me money part, like your whole body starts twisting and like they just kind of like they start. Yeah, you're right, DJ. Their hands start, the sweat drips off your nose. And for me, everything as a professional sales rep in logistics and transportation is what's the next logical step, right? If I don't understand what Nigel really needs, because I didn't ask the question, every choice I make, every decision I make has a real chance of completely missing the target. Right? So
you've got to love the process.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But again, you've got to have fun putting it together, constantly tweaking it. It's an agile document. I hear still, I've been in it a long time, but I still hear things and I think, I like that. I'm going to use that. I'm going to put that in there. Yeah, I like that.
I do that all the time. Yeah, I agree. I love it. Yeah, that's why I love.
Like DJ says, it's a performance. Yeah, some things will work for a while. Some things then stop working. So you then find out what's currently working and you adjust it. There's a framework within the process that doesn't really alter, but how you go about things, how you communicate, the language you use, all of this is a performance. And people argue art and science. I don't know. I was never good at science, but build a process, test the process, love the process, and it becomes, honestly, I know I'm passionate. You can tell I'm passionate about this, hopefully, but it's so much enjoyment comes out of it. Yes, I've made money from it, and that's great, but you've got to love the process, not just go in it to try and make money. If you go and try and make money,
right, Nigel?
People smell that. People smell that.
Yeah, well, it's commission breath. DJ and I have talked about that many, many, many times. It's a lens in which you see where you have one sales rep who's making sales calls or doing this and he's getting rejected and he's getting frustrated and you've got it, or he or she, and you got another sales rep who's like, okay, that's not working. Let's try this. Oh my God, that worked a little bit. Okay, let's try this. Oh my God, that worked a little bit more. And okay, let's amalgamate the two and can it get better? And to me, this is the joy that we bring to our careers. And DJ, you and I have said it pretty much in every show. There's a job and there's a career. And your lens of your level of education, your lens of what you're going to do, your desires, your ambitions, all this, it really happens in a career instead of a job. Because typically, for the most part, people that are in jobs do just enough to stay employed, right?
Well, and it starts from the top too. One of you guys had mentioned earlier in the conversation about, well, we mentioned commission breath, and I was going to talk about that then, but then somebody said, seen each, I think Nigel, you said, seen each person as a value or a dollar amount. So what is that person, that sales rep, going to think of the customer? The same thing that their boss is thinking of them. Well, they're just a dollar amount. This is just that value. Instead of valuing the person themselves, it's going to bleed down. So
And DJ, you make a really good point. And I think somebody asked me the other day what I was most proud of with regards to selling. And the face-to-face with the customers and everything and the process and everything is great. But when I first started, I had to recruit a workforce of drivers who worked for me. Now, if you look at it, I didn't have the vehicles. I didn't have what they were doing for the next 5 days. I had nothing. I had a concept where, driver, I will look after you. Yeah. I will guarantee you a wage. I will guarantee you holiday, all these type of things. But to me, selling to a driver to say, come on board without any rigs, without any time scale of what they were doing, and then subcontract them out to my customers, for drivers to say, yeah, actually, Nigel, I like that. I'll have a piece of that. I think that takes more sales skill probably than I ever showed bringing customers on board, because to the driver, that's their life. You know, they were trusting me with their mortgage or rent. They were trusting me with, you know, where they wanted to go, holiday, all these type of things. And as you guys know, trust in sales is huge. And I had 82 guys, fantastic guys, who trusted me to be able to do what I was saying I was going to do. So the triangle, you remember talking about the triangle, you know, the driver, and people used to say to me, directors of large companies in the UK, to say, Nigel, we're fed up. How can you recruit those drivers and we can't? Yeah. And I'd say, because I give them what they're looking for. I used to do very quickly, because I got them out. I used to do, when I used to recruit drivers and interview drivers, I used to do what I called a Clams Test, which was basically challenge, location, advancement, money, security. So I'd start the meeting with the driver by saying, what would you like from today? Okay. They tell me, like I say, I start every meeting the same way. And then I give them a little piece of paper with CLAMS on it. Challenge, location, advancement, money, security. And I used to say, driver, just 1 being the most important to you, 5 being the least important to you, just gauge them 1 to 5. And they would put next to, and everybody would differ. But then you talk through those points. Yeah. And I could tell whether I wanted that driver on board with regards to what they put. Yeah. And what was important to them, whether I could deliver that. So again, with regards selling, it's getting those relationships where you get trust. That's the driver's aspect of it. So initially, you know, the market in the UK back then was drivers were used on a temporary basis. So, for example, they might be busy for 3 days. They wouldn't be busy for 5. They'd be sat, which is no, like you guys, that's no good for a driver. So I used to say to them, okay, what happens if I guarantee you a wage, a 5-day wage, guaranteed? You might be sat, you might be working, but I guarantee you the wage. Back then it was £450 a week, which is around about 770 Canadian dollars.
Probably right in that area, yeah.
So that's not a bad commitment when a driver is sitting opposite you thinking, well, I might be sat for 5 days a week because he hasn't got any rigs. Yeah. He can't give me a timetable of what I'm doing next week, but he's going to pay me £450, even if I'm sat at home for 5 days. Yeah. Now, that was a lot of work on my behalf because I couldn't afford just to do that with 82 people. Mm-hmm. But it got me to focus on what I was good at, was getting the work that suited the driver in order for me to do that.
I love it.
Little extrinsic motivation for you. Little kind of 82 people, 450 pounds a week.
Like you guys, like you guys know, you don't upset a driver with pay.
Yeah.
But you know, the other thing was, you know, I provided a company uniform, so they felt value. You know, we back in those days, it was collar and tie, all these type of things, polo shirts, you know, high vis thermal jackets. These other people, my competitors, weren't doing anything like that.
You gave them security, right, Nigel? Like you gave them that ability to know this person truly cares about my results.
Yes.
And, you know, I could share with you. I'll share a quick story because I know we're running.
And that's selling. That's very quickly, Dan. Talking about caring, that is a big part of selling. I cared about my drivers. I cared about my customers. So when the customers decided Nigel's doing a good job, we then discussed all kinds of things. because suddenly I'm delivering where they want to go. So they suddenly say, well, what other suggestions could we run here? Well, I'll tell you what, why don't I put a large advertisement on the back of your rigs to say that you're looking to recruit drivers, and I'll deal with the interview side of that. Fantastic. Let's do it. Now, to me, that was great, because I had all these articulated vehicles running around the UK with my telephone number on them. So any driver looking for work, I'd be talking to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
and then
awesome.
they say, that's gone so well, Nigel. What about actually running a recruitment day for us? We'll brand it and everything, but you actually do the mechanics. Great. Perfect. You're then working like this.
Yeah.
And then you got customers, and I'm very grateful for the fact 28 years I've had the same customers.
That's because you care about them.
Yeah.
You mentioned it, but that's
I had a customer. We walked in, multi-billion-dollar company.
You're echoing, Dan.
Not
sure.
Might be okay.
I think you're good enough.
Okay. Walked in, and the big challenge was detention demerge, to the tune of 1.68 million. When we put a plan together with that as the nucleus, that is the vision, a year later there was no demerge. They finally got a bonus. And you know what was the biggest payout from an emotional, that standpoint, was listening to my customer when he said the joy that he got when he was able to buy a pool for his kids because of that bonus that he got paid. And that was the first time in my career I stopped and said, this ain't about freight. Like, you got drivers, Nigel. It's not about drivers. It's about connecting the dots and helping your customers achieve the goals, which is why you had the customers for 28 years, because you're helping a driver achieve a goal. Hey, steady employment, somebody that cares about me, a company that truly cares about who I am as an individual, that asks me, what's more important of these 5 things? And we're gonna work on each of them for you. And then the customer that says, okay, you know what? This is my need, and this is the decisions Nigel keeps making to fulfill my need. I think it's brilliant, brother. Brilliant. I love that Clams Test.
Yes, I love that too. Yeah.
It's just simple things, because the customer, if you're getting the better driver, which we attracted, we used to interview 10 drivers, offer 3, employment start 1.
Okay, I got to stop you there. Hold on, I got to stop you there. You had a driver profile of the specific drivers that you wanted to hire. So everybody watching and listening, listen to this very, very carefully. We have said on hundreds of thousands of times probably, not every customer is a good customer. Not every dollar is a good dollar. Driver profile. Nigel has a service that he's giving to people. So if he doesn't bring drivers in, he doesn't make money, but he's still focused on that driver profile to make sure you get the right people on the bus. I love that you said that, Nigel.
The recruitment industry, which I hated, that I worked in before I started my own company, it was purely quantity. If you got a driver, it didn't matter if he had a drink driving conviction or anything, just get him out of the door and get him
out. As long as they have a pulse, right? As long as they have a pulse.
Yeah.
If they're warm, if their body's warm, just go.
Oh yeah, he could go. He could go. I got a good quote, because you guys tied this right to this. And then if you guys want to wrap up, pretend that every single person you meet has a sign around his or her neck that says, "Make me feel important." Not only will you succeed in sales, you will succeed in life.
Love it.
Love it.
I didn't even realize we're 5 minutes over time. So everybody that's still on watching, thank you so much, and listening, thank you so much. We typically go 45 minutes, Nigel, but geez, we could sit here for another hour and a half.
Oh, I could talk.
Part of me wishes I didn't book anything after, because
let's do it again.
Well, you know what? How about this? The 3 of us will go offline, and we're going to connect to a few more people. I'm thinking sometime in December, let's do a marathon. And if you're up for it, let's schedule this. All y'all watching and listening, let's do a marathon, like literally 3-4 hours of just bringing awesome people together, talking. Let's do it. Okay, we're going to talk gratitude. We're going to talk
we had clams. We haven't even touched on this yet.
Yeah, no, and we're going to. That is so.
He's teasing it.
I love it. Yeah. That's a good hook, brother. You just totally opened that loop, and now you're all gonna have to come back in a couple of weeks.
We haven't even touched on storytelling yet.
Yes, I know. So we're going to jump off now, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. Remember, go out there, make every call educational, crush your sales, and you're only one sales sequence away. Nigel, thank you so much for being here, brother. Really appreciate it.
Pleasure.
Thank you so much, Nigel.
Absolute pleasure.